Our tale unfolds in the perilous expanses of Kineo Mountain, within a tiny hamlet known as Toad Village. This settlement was founded and inhabited by a band of mountain brigands, who are now bereft of their leader. Consequently, the village is nearly deserted. The few that remain are filled with apprehension as they've lost control over the mountain. It's clear that government forces are imminent, likely to eradicate them. There are whispers of deserting their new leader too. However, an audacious voice berates their cowardly thoughts. The new leader is a mere 18 years old, inexperienced and ignorant, yet there are still those contemplating abandonment. The audacious voice exhorts the dissenters to depart immediately. The speaker, seemingly steadfast and principled, succeeds in raising his companions' morale momentarily. Unbeknownst to them, however, he was urging them to flee while they still could, and he is the first to escape. His flight inspires the others to follow suit. Consequently, the village population dwindles to a mere 3 + 1 horse. The youthful man is Chengdale, the new chief of the bandit crew, and our story's hero. As he sits, a sharp pain permeates his head, triggering a flood of foreign memories. He recalls his mundane life as a university student with a penchant for games. While engrossed in a strategy game, Hearts of the Mountain Bandits, he blacked out and woke up in this strange world. He recalls the desolate streets of his dilapidated village, his vanished family, and his ascension to the head of a destitute household. He's in a remote corner of a country known as Dawu, established 120 years prior. Dawu governs over 108 cities and 13 prefectures. It once held dominion over land and sea, but its influence has faded. Now, its citizens endure incessant warfare, forcing survivors into the life of banditry, filling the world with these outcasts. Toad Village is but one such outpost of banditry. Under the previous leader, Toad Village held considerable power and prestige within the Kineo mountain range. However, with the old leader's recent demise, the remaining brigands have scattered, leaving Chengdale alone. As he's trying to comprehend his new reality, he feels a hand on his shoulder. This is Zhu Shenjai, an elder in the village who views Chengdale with worry in his eyes. He and his daughter are the village's only remaining inhabitants. Serving as Toad Village strategist, Zhu Shenjai's intelligence and ideas are dubious at best, offering little to no practical value. However, he is the sole individual willing to linger in this forsaken settlement. Chengdale is profoundly grateful for his presence. But is this truly the case? Does this man plan to remain a loyal counselor until the end? Absolutely not. His sole purpose is to notify the village chief of his imminent departure, claiming the village's last horse for his own, given nobody else seems to want it. Furthermore, this resolute old man intends to strip the tiger skin from his leader's hull for selling. Chengdale doesn't have the energy to entertain this absurdity. The situation is already dire beyond measure. A single horse and a piece of tiger skin won't ensure his survival. So, he instructs his advisor to take everything and depart. The spry elder hastily secures the tiger skin, ordering his daughter to prepare the horse for their exit. Not a shred of remorse is visible in his gaze, as if he'd been awaiting this opportunity for years. Ultimately, Chengdale is entirely alone in his dilapidated hovel, not even a rug for comfort. Indeed, a seemingly hopeless predicament. Alone in a completely alien world, how will he endure? But not all hope is lost. As he ruminates on his dire circumstances, a mystical circle materializes behind him, and a solitary hand emerges. The hand seems to be searching for something. What is its goal? It sought to smack Chengdale on the head. The poor fellow, unable to find a moment's peace, whirls around in fury to confront the intruder in his home. Suddenly, the surroundings morph entirely. He finds himself in an unfamiliar dimension, encircled by countless glowing orbs, a brilliant yellow light bathing him from above. What is this place? Where am I? He's consumed with questions. Then, something even more extraordinary occurs. The yellow light orb begins to expand, revealing a female silhouette. She's enveloped in a divine, golden aura that gradually wraps around her, manifesting as her clothing. Brave young man, utters the golden-haired beauty upon completing her transformation, you have finally arrived. She locks eyes with our protagonist. But who is she? Where is this place? Chengdale is overwhelmed with questions. The golden-haired beauty explains that this is the system's subspace, and she is the spirit of this system. She congratulates the protagonist on activating the game Hearts of the Bandits, the very game he was playing before blacking out. Could it be that he has reincarnated into a game world? Indeed, that's exactly what has happened. The system's spirit is here to guide him on his journey. She reveals the current state of the Toad Village under his leadership. The population tally stands at 3, inclusive of himself as the reigning chieftain, a tactician, and a horse caretaker. Chengdale observes all of this on a screen-like panel before him. Gradually, he's beginning to comprehend his predicament. He possesses a game-like system and must thrive and endure in this new world. Then, he's issued his inaugural mission: prevent the population from dwindling to 1. Halt the exodus. Failure would result in the permanent disappearance of his system. The system's spirit declares the mission's deployment, charging the protagonist with its execution. Should he fail, he bears the blame alone. Energy converges around him, infiltrating his body. The system is now fully integrated with its host. The system's spirit informs him that he must prevent the departure of the tactician and the horse groomer or risk losing the system and enduring severe consequences. Chengdale has grasped his situation and the critical nature of mission completion. His survival hinges on fulfilling these tasks. Yet, one query lingers. How do I leave this place? He asks the system's spirit. Laughing, she beckons him closer to reveal the answer. She clutches Chengdale by the collar, casting him out of her dimension with the finesse of a seasoned baseball pitcher. This poor chap just can't catch a break. Spare a thought for our protagonist. Regaining consciousness, he finds himself gasping on the floor. Was that entire spectacle a dream? If not, where is the system's spirit now? She is right beside him. As he struggles to catch his breath, she ominously warns him that mission failure would likely result in his demise. So, he does the only logical thing. He bolts from his dwelling, hollering the strategist's name at the top of his lungs. He swiftly locates the strategist preparing to depart and pleads with him to stay. The cunning elder worries that the leader may have reconsidered his decision, intending to reclaim the horse and tiger skin. He attempts to shame Chengdale into retreating. However, Chengdale is distracted by the figure accompanying strategist Zhu. Her name is Zhu Linger, a resilient young woman who doubles as the strategist's daughter and the village horse groomer. Chengdale is taken aback by her radiant beauty. He queries the strategist about her identity. The strategist informs him that she is his only child, and her duties with the horses have likely prevented Chengdale from encountering her until now. Chengdale is dumbfounded that such an unsightly old man could have such a beautiful daughter. But he has no time to marvel. He must halt their departure at any cost. He insists to the strategist that his contribution is vital for the clan's survival, that without him, he'd be entirely helpless. But the elder is adamant about not remaining in a deserted village. He knows lingering here would only lead to his demise, so he employs his smooth talk to weave out of the situation. However, the strategist isn't the sole silver-tongued individual present. Chengdale is a maestro at this game of persuasion. He assures the strategist that while he is around, none of his subordinates will starve. Furthermore, where would the strategist venture? What other village would welcome him? The leader's proposal is compelling, making it increasingly difficult for the strategist to escape. Still, he voices his worry. How could a mere trio survive even if he stays? But Chengdale is reassuring. He commands the strategist to fetch his weapon, as he intends to resort to plunder, the common recourse for mountain bandits. A wave of exhilaration washes over him as he wonders about the splendid rewards upon mission completion. He envisions himself wielding a majestic sword, a staple accessory for any handsome protagonist in a fantasy tale. His dream promptly shatters when Zhu Linger hauls in his weapon, a colossal axe, nearly as large as the girl herself. This is not what he envisaged. An axe hardly qualifies as a cool weapon. Is he to be a lumberjack? His fortune seems to persist in a downward spiral, which leaves him disheartened. However, this is not the moment for despair. His mission to prevent the departure of the strategist and the groomer has been accomplished, and his reward is on its way. He's bestowed a skill book to assist him in mastering axe combat. The system's spirit materializes, bestowing upon him the contents of the skill book. Visions of diverse fighting styles and martial arts maneuvers flood Chengdale's mind, and in an instant, he is proficient in the use of an axe. The strategist expresses apprehension, cautioning his leader about the peril of robbing people single-handedly. But who said he'd be alone? Chengdale casts a quizzical glance at strategist Zhu. The elder quickly grasps the implication. He's part of the raiding party. The prospect of a raid with a lone warrior and an old man isn't promising. It seems like his time in this world may be coming to a close. Naturally, Dale has no intention of allowing him to finagle his way out. A single glance at the gleaming edge of his enormous axe, and the strategist understands he's thoroughly out of luck. Chengdale, restless and eager for adventure, mounts the frail horse and signals the strategist to get moving. That's when his second mission is assigned, to execute a successful robbery before the day's end. A successful mission will earn him a single lottery draw, while failure comes with a grim price, his life. The downcast strategist seems to have made peace with his predicament and agrees to accompany the village chief. But Chengdale, with his fiery spirit, finds the term village chief too mundane. He instructs strategist Zhu to address him as boss henceforth, and together they journey into the dwindling light of the setting sun. The Kennu Mountains' rugged landscape is treacherous and nightfall is imminent. One misstep could cost him his life. Yet, the young man remains fearless. His heart throbs with exhilaration. He trusts in his ability to find a way to triumph in the face of adversity. Thus begins the saga of the most formidable mountain bandit ever to tread this land. An entourage is making its way through the Kennu mountain range, 2 warriors leading the pack and a handful trailing behind. A person of significance seems to be in the carriage. The primary escorts are astride horses, while the rest walk. The group's captain cautions his second-in-command about the infestation of bandits in the mountain. Given they're protecting the city lord's son's fiancée, they must remain alert. The young warriors, however, scorn the warning. Confident in his might, he dismisses the mountain bandits as unworthy opponents to his spear. Should they dare attack, he'd run them through instantly. In fact, he's lamenting the peacefulness of their mission. He yearns for a brawl, a clear indication of impending doom. Meanwhile, Chengdao patiently awaits a chance to engage in some banditry. The sun is nearing the horizon, and strategist Zhu frets that no one would travel this late in the day. It would be safer to withdraw and try again tomorrow. But Chengdao thinks otherwise. Given his mission to carry out a robbery before nightfall, he's confident an opportunity will present itself. Time ticks by, and the escort group's leader continuously harps on about their crucial duty to safely deliver the Su family's daughter to Black Rock City for her marriage to the city lord's son. The rest are quick to latch onto these red herrings. The soldiers complain about their leader's overcaution. They boast about their status as the city lord's personal escort group, stating any attack against them would be a suicidal endeavor. Little do they know, there's one such fool among them. A novice to this world, all he wishes to do is fulfill his tasks. Chengdao's patience is rewarded. His mission objective is now within his grasp. Strategist Zhu quickly tallies up the guards. It's a no-brainer that they are greatly outnumbered, not to mention every guard is heavily armed. The strategist's concern is justified, yet Chengdao tells him to remain calm. After all, they're in this together, even if it ends in their demise. Naturally, the old man has no intention of sharing a grave with his witless leader. As the escort group inches closer to their hidden location, the strategist's anxiety rises. He must find an escape route. His mind whirls, and he hatches a devious plan. He edges closer to his leader's horse and delivers a stab to its rump. Poor beast, caught in the crossfire of their mad scheme. Chengdao swears at the strategist, but it's too late. The horse, in a wild panic, bolts straight towards the escort group. To make matters worse, the strategist loudly proclaims that the Toad Village leader is the culprit behind the impending robbery. Those who value their lives should surrender and depart, leaving their belongings behind. Seizing the moment of confusion, the strategist beats a hasty retreat. His daughter is waiting at home. He can't afford a foolhardy death here. Conversely, Chengdao is irked about the unsolicited title of Toad Village leader. His frenzied steed charges headlong towards the carriage, showing no signs of slowing. Finally, he manages to pull the reins and halt the beast just in the nick of time. What a harrowing ordeal. Who knew horse handling could be this difficult? But his troubles have just begun. The real challenge lies before him. He finds himself staring at a squad of heavily armed escorts. He's cornered, and he's fully aware of it. Death at the hands of the system feels like a merciful alternative to battling these individuals. The leader of the group questions if he is alone. Chengdao attempts to clarify the situation, saying he's not the Toad Village leader. In fact, he introduces himself as Zuchen Jai, a scholar. He advises those who value their lives to abandon their goods and make a quick escape. The fool believes shifting the blame onto his strategist will remedy his predicament. The escort group is now questioning the sanity of their supposed assailant. They can't suppress their laughter at the absurd spectacle unfolding before them. The group's leader, trying to reinstate order, requests everyone to simmer down. He shows mercy, offering Chengdao one last chance to retreat unharmed. If he leaves now, they won't pursue the matter any further. At this moment, a dainty hand parts the silk curtains of the carriage, revealing a woman of unparalleled beauty. Her glossy auburn hair and deep blue eyes suggest that she belongs to an affluent family, presumably the fiancée of the city lord's son. She gazes at the lone bandit with concern in her eyes. Chengdao is completely taken by her enchanting looks, having never witnessed such beauty before. Understandably so. However, this is hardly the time to be entranced by a woman. The system's spirit emerges from her realm, reminding her host that his life hangs in the balance. Only Chengdao can see her when she steps out of the system's subspace. He pleads with her to stop hitting him on the head every time she appears, but she is unfazed by his complaints. She's here to assign another task to her host, robbing the young master's bride-to-be. This is a hidden mission, and the host can choose to decline it. The system's spirit cautions him that this mission's difficulty level considerably exceeds his current ability. Chengdao, however, knows that hidden missions are rare and thus yield significant rewards. He puts on a brave face, accepting the mission and declaring that he can't live up to the title of a bandit if he doesn't take risks. But the system's spirit knows him all too well. She's certain that this licentious fool is merely attracted to the beautiful maiden. Meanwhile, the young spear-wielding warrior is eager for combat. Finally, an adversary to test his might. He warns others to stay out of it. He alone will take down the bandit. The guards are buzzing with anticipation. They're about to witness the martial prowess of the escort warrior hired for this mission. They implore him to show mercy, to flaunt his skills instead of dealing a fatal blow. The warrior, confident in his fighting abilities, assures Chengdao that he'll spare his life. The young warrior introduces himself as Lai Sheyu, an ordinary spearman adept in piercing spear strikes. He possesses one hidden attribute: he aspires to become a legendary hero. Maintaining his bluster, Chengdao shows no hesitation in accepting this challenge. He boasts that his axe has slain countless nameless foes. To avoid a nameless death, he advises the young warrior to reveal his name. The courageous youth proudly announces his name, then inquires about the bandit's real identity. Is he the leader of the Toad Village, or the scholar Zhu Shenjai? Chengdao pauses, pondering over the most absurd joke possible. He delivers a punchline with a facial expression all too familiar. Naturally, this joke sails over the heads of the unsophisticated men of this era. Warrior Lin simply finds the name strange, but Chengdale is growing impatient. Deciding it's time for action, Chengdale propels his horse towards the enemy, raising his colossal axe for the initial strike. When the weapons clash, sparks scatter in the air. Warrior Lin barely manages to deflect the assault. The brute force behind the attack catches him off guard. He didn't anticipate such strength from a mere bandit. But Chengdale doesn't ease his onslaught. With an extra shove on his axe, aided by the momentum of his charging horse, he manages to thrust the axe right up to the warrior, ultimately knocking him off his steed. The warrior's weapon skids out of his grip, and he crashes forcefully to the ground. Quite the unexpected outcome. Chengdale proceeds, steering his horse towards the carriage. The previously smug guards now wear expressions of disbelief. Their ill omens seem to be catching up to them. Chengdale disregards the onlookers, vaults from his horse, and boots the carriage driver from his position. The beautiful maiden inside watches as the scene unravels. Chengdale wins back his axe for a downward swing, smacking the carriage horse's rear and inciting panic within the creature. People of this world seem to have a strange habit of prodding horse rears. Oddly enough, this stratagem works. With the horse nearly uncontrollable, Chengdale assumes control, steering the carriage ahead at top speed and bulldozing through the crowd. The warrior commander bellows orders for his men to pursue the carriage. If they fail to apprehend the bandit, their heads will be on the line. A lone bandit had managed to swoop in and kidnap the city lord's son's bride-to-be. Meanwhile, strategist Zhu Shenjai has made his way back to the village. He calls out to his daughter, urging her to secure the village gates to prevent intruders from getting in. Zhu Lingher, the strategist's daughter and the village horse groomer, is bewildered. She questions her father about why he's the only one who returned, inquiring about the whereabouts of the village master. The strategist somberly informs her that the village master is no more and that if he hadn't been quick enough to flee, he would have met a similar fate. He appears deeply worried. Sensing her father's distress, Zhu Lingher tries to console him, assuring him that the deceased won't return to haunt him. He shouldn't fret over it. However, the young girl remains oblivious to her father's true nature. The strategist couldn't care less about the fate of the village master. His only lament is the loss of the horse. It's clear to him that his days in the village are numbered. He instructs his daughter to gather whatever she can before they make their swift departure, not excluding even the garlic from the kitchen. Returning to the heart of the action, the high-speed pursuit rages on, with Chengdale at the helm of the carriage, fervently trying to outpace his pursuers. The system's spirit appears to notify him that he has successfully accomplished the mission of robbing someone before nightfall. He's now presented with the opportunity to engage in a lottery draw. Should he opt for the draw now? With no time to weigh his options, he urges the spirit to proceed with the draw. The spirit, in her mocking tone, queries if he truly intends to conduct the draw while handling the reins. This provocation annoys Chengdale to no end. He's already boxed into a corner and isn't in the mood for games. He threatens to reprimand her if she continues to jest. But the spirit thrives on humor. She cheekily retorts, asking him to choose between the draw and her punishment. Chengdale, at the end of his tether, pleads with the spirit to hastily proceed with the lottery draw. At long last, the spirit complies, conjuring an antiquated-style lottery machine. As she manipulates the machine with a gentle shake, the chasing enemies draw ominously closer. Chengdale's life hangs by a thread. Yet again, he implores the spirit to expedite the process, fearful that his pursuers may behead him any second. In his agitation, he rattles the lottery machine furiously until a golden ball finally emerges. Congratulations, he has acquired an illustrious hunter named Kinmet. Chengdale is taken aback at the prospect of drawing human beings from the lottery. But how will this individual appear? Would he descend from the sky? Should he recite an incantation? He contorts himself into several awkward postures, presuming this might somehow summon the hunter. As always, the spirit revels in his comedic display. While Chengdale's distracted by his antics, Warrior Lin nearly catches up. The outlook seems grim for our protagonist, but then a silhouette emerges at the end of the road. This newcomer acknowledges Chengdale as the village master, reassuring him that reinforcements have arrived. As the carriage whizzes past, we finally catch a glimpse of the summoned hunter. He's a rugged man, his body a testament to battles fought, adorned with numerous scars. Chengdale rapidly surmises that the system cannot materialize rewards out of thin air. Instead, it orchestrates their arrival to occur at an appropriate moment. The advancing warrior calls out for the hunter to clear the path, struggling to rein in his horse. Yet, Hunter Kinmet remains unperturbed. Kinmet commands the warrior to dismount, before striking the horse's face with the blunt end of his lengthy pole. The impact sends the horse and its rider sprawling to the ground. Kinmet's display of brute strength astonishes Chengdale and stuns the trailing pursuers. Despite his fear, the unit commander tries a final gambit, threatening that they are part of Black Rock City Lord's personal forces. If the bandits don't surrender and release the abducted maiden, they risk total destruction. Unfazed, Kinmet retorts with a swift swing of his pole, hurling a rock towards the enemy, which smashes into the commander's face, knocking out a front tooth. With his menacing aura, Kinmet warns them to retreat. With no other option, the petrified guards flee, recognizing their dire disadvantage against this formidable hunter. Kinmet then approaches his new master, informing him of his decision to serve under him. The system's spirit provides a profile of his status, and we learn more about his backstory. He's a 31-year-old man, adept in the Plum Blossom Spear martial arts, with no hidden traits and a wanted status. He formerly resided near Black Rock City with his wife. When the city lord learned of his wife's exceptional beauty, he ordered his men to capture her. However, out of loyalty and refusal to submit, she chose to end her life by leaping off a cliff. Upon returning from his daily hunting routine, Kinmet found it was too late. His wife was gone. Filled with fury, he launched a solo attack on Black Rock City, slaughtering numerous guards. Now a fugitive, his vengeance remains unfulfilled. To ensure his survival and witness the city lord's downfall, he has decided to pledge his loyalty to the Toad Village Master. Although this might be the background story of a secondary character, Chengdale understands that these experiences are Kinmet's personal realities. It serves as another reminder that this world is fraught with warfare and criminality. Strangely enough, the emaciated horse Chengdale had discarded earlier manages to find its way back to its master. Chengdale suggests that Kinmet mounts the horse, and together, they head towards the Toad Village. Meanwhile, the strategist is unabashedly stuffing away all the garlic in sight. He instructs his daughter to thoroughly inspect behind all the pots, so as not to miss anything. Exhausted, she protests, claiming she's reached her capacity and can't carry any more belongings. Zhu Shenjai asserts that he, too, can't carry so much all at once, but needs the items for survival. Suddenly, a voice inquires if they might be in need of a horse. Zhu Lingher spins around to find the village master, Chengdale, has returned. This comes as a shock and potentially bad news for the strategist, given that he had abandoned Chengdale to the enemy. However, the wily old man quickly shifts his demeanor, feigning joy at the return of his leader. Chengdale, aware of Zhu Shenjai's manipulative ways, informs him that he revealed Shenjai's name to the guards, who will likely soon declare him a wanted man. This essentially traps Shenjai in the Toad Village under Chengdale's command, as he would be pursued wherever he goes. Realizing his predicament, Shenjai pledges his future usefulness to the village master. Doubting the strategist's abilities, Chengdale simply assigns him to look after his horse for the time being. He introduces Kinmet to the pair and insists that they all get along. Chengdale appears pleased with the situation. He instructs Lingher to feed the horse, Kinmet to prepare the meal, and Zhu Shenjai to confine the woman from the carriage in his room. He expresses his intent to spend the night with his newly acquired bride. Without hesitation, the trio set out to perform their assigned tasks. Recalling that he hasn't yet reviewed the rewards of the covert mission, Chengdale summons the system's spirit with a snap of his fingers. She appears, though not as warmly as he had hoped. She's irritated by his orders, demanding to be referred to as the system goddess from then on. Despite her annoyance, she commends Chengdale for successfully completing the first stage of the covert mission, even with its high difficulty level. She informs him that his reward is the awakening of a hidden attribute in a village member. However, the recipient of this awakening is determined by chance. Uncertain of his luck, which has been less than favorable thus far, Chengdale awaits the result. Suddenly, he hears a call from behind. Turning, he finds Zhu Shenjai standing there, looking utterly confused. It seems that Shenjai is the one whose hidden attribute has been awakened. His profile is finally revealed, a 49-year-old, infamous for his feudal strategic skills, with absolutely no martial arts abilities, and a talent for devising ineffective tactics. No matter what plans or strategies he may propose, none of them ever succeed. Once again, Chengdale is confronted with the utter uselessness of this old man. Even his hidden talent is utterly worthless. Zhu Shenjai, noting the village master's disappointed expression, inquires as to what's troubling him. Chengdale instructs Shenjai to keep his opinions to himself and get to the point. The strategist reveals that he has spoken to the woman they've taken captive. Her name is Sui, and she's engaged to the young master of Black Rock City. Shenjai expresses concern that their actions might have dire consequences, reminding Chengdale that their previous village leader met his end after tangling with Black Rock City. In Shenjai's view, their future looks bleak. Just as he finishes, Zhu Lingher arrives to announce that dinner is ready. Chengdale suggests inviting Kinmet to the meal as well so they can discuss their predicament. Once assembled, Chengdale asks if anyone has detailed knowledge of the internal workings of Black Rock City. Kinmet is the first to respond. He informs the group that Black Rock City is approximately 150 miles from the Toad Ridge. The city is ruled by a brutal and lecherous lord named Hanhaji, who commands an elite force of 5,000 soldiers. This figure strikes fear into Shenjai, who questions how they can possibly combat such a force with only 2 warriors. Chengdale, growing irritated by Shenjai's escalating cowardice, retorts that they are in a no-win situation. Even if they return Sui, they are unlikely to be spared. It's too late for such actions. Shenjai, as usual, has no viable suggestions. However, Kinmet proposes a bold plan. Instead of waiting for the enemy, he suggests they preemptively attack Black Rock City and eliminate the city lord. Through some unclear logic, he estimates their odds of success at 70%. Shenjai, taken aback by this audacious plan, questions why he hasn't left the village yet. Even his daughter concurs, suggesting they are likely already doomed. Though others may doubt, Chengdale is a savvy leader. He understands that flight is not an option. He correctly assumes that Black Rock City won't dispatch their entire force of 5,000 to retrieve Sui, guessing they might face 100-200 men at most. Moreover, considering the city's distance from the Toad Ridge, the enemy would need at least 5 days to reach the village. This gives them an opportunity to prepare traps and establish an ambush point within that time frame. Suddenly, a new mission appears: defend the village and repel the incoming force. The system's spirit warns Chengdao that the mission's difficulty level is substantial. Unfazed, Chengdao continues to rally his group. He expresses his personal vendetta against Han Hujai for his father's death, and reminds Kinmit of his quest for revenge. He questions how they could continue to live without fulfilling these vows. Regardless of the challenges ahead, they must defend their village successfully. Chengdao's words deeply inspire Kinmit, who feels invigorated for the impending conflict. However, Chengdao expresses a concern. There are 2 routes leading to Toad Ridge. How will they discern the enemy's approach? Shenjai offers a solution. He suggests that one road is too narrow for large carriages or rapid marching. Consequently, the enemy is more likely to choose the broader road. But Chengdao recalls that Shenjai's hidden talent involves flawed strategies. If they follow his advice, they're destined for disaster. Chengdao probes Shenjai directly, asking which path he thinks the enemy will take. Shenjai confidently asserts they will take the Imperial Road. With this, Chengdao discerns their actual approach, and it's undoubtedly not the Imperial Road. He then queries Shenjai on their chances of victory. Once again, Shenjai is certain there will be no miracles, no chance of winning. This reassures Chengdao that there might indeed be a chance, possibly even a miraculous outcome. Initially lacking faith, Chengdao now finds confidence. As long as they do the opposite of what Shenjai proposes, victory might be within reach. The abducted Miss Suga anxiously awaits rescue in her room. Cheng Dali brings her a meal, encouraging her to eat. The young woman trembles visibly, clearly terrified. Cheng Dali takes a moment to admire her beauty again. She's his captive now. He could do whatever he pleased with her. Dark thoughts begin to encroach on his mind. But he rapidly dismisses these unsettling ideas, reminding himself of his past life's decency and honor. Chengdale finds himself grappling with a troubling thought. If he crosses certain boundaries, he risks becoming a true villain. This shift in his demeanor and his unexpected kindness towards the young lady triggers the second stage of a hidden mission. Having succeeded in abducting another man's fiancée, he must now win her heart without resorting to violence. Only a genuine gentleman can win the hearts of women, which is a prerequisite to ruling the world. Approaching the young lady, Chengdale confides that he finds himself unable to sleep that night. Coincidentally, it seems Sighing is also awake. Without wasting time on small talk, Sighing attempts to negotiate with her captor. She reveals her origins from one of the 4 prominent families of the Fallen Leaf City, assuring him that her family would repay him generously if he releases her. She also discloses her engagement to the young master of Black Rock City, insinuating that it would not be in his best interest to harm her. Chengdale, however, assures her he means her no harm. His grudge lies with the city lord, and her abduction is merely a ploy to draw him out. Once the conflict ends, he pledges to release her. Unconvinced by his assurances, the skeptical Sighing maintains her stance that all men are inherently alike, including this young bandit. She continues her negotiation, promising to comply with any of his demands as long as she remains unharmed. The system's spirit then reveals her status. Sighing, though devoid of martial arts abilities, possesses a remarkable talent for insightful thinking. Beneath her adorable exterior, she is extraordinarily intelligent. Chengdale, reviewing her status, contemplates the potential benefits of winning her over. To Sighing, he may appear to be a brutal bandit, but Chengdale asks, if he could live peacefully, why would he resort to banditry? He nostalgically recalls a time when he desired to be a scholar or a warrior. Sighing seems slightly taken aback by this unexpected revelation. Chengdale continues his heartfelt discourse, expressing his past ambitions of studying literature, battling warriors, winning titles, exploring the world, and crossing the seas. But his aspirations were quashed by the greed and contemptuousness of societal elites, prompting him to question the world's inherent cruelty. He expresses to Sighing his hope to salvage this world, to create a peaceful existence for all. Yet now, he only yearns to take her hand and ask, will you aid me in achieving my dream? Chengdale is indeed a wordsmith, but will his eloquence be enough to win the young woman's heart? Moreover, how will he succeed in the forthcoming battle against the city lord? Having listened to Chengdale's impassioned plea, Sighing finds herself torn. Sighing finds herself in a quandary. She knows she shouldn't trust her captor, yet her intuition tells her that he truly means no harm. Though unsure why she feels this way, she chalks it up to feminine instinct. Once more, she questions Chengdale about his demands, assuring him she would comply as long as her safety is guaranteed. After a moment's thought, Chengdale sits at a nearby table and asks Sign to enlighten him about the world's current state of affairs. This request, the first genuine sentiment he's expressed since entering the room, stems from his recent arrival in this world and the ensuing need for knowledge. He reckons that Sign, being the daughter of a prosperous merchant, could impart considerable wisdom. Their conversation ensues and persists until she must depart. Before leaving, Chengdale expresses his gratitude for her valuable insights, leaving Sign more than a little puzzled about her feelings towards her captor. His words may not have been genuine, but his eloquence is far beyond that of an average bandit. His discourse suggested that of an erudite and ambitious scholar. Sign struggles to comprehend the situation but takes solace in knowing she's safe for now. Outside the room, Hunter Kin Man awaits quietly, requesting Chengdale's audience upon his emergence. Kin Man wishes to reaffirm his loyalty to Chengdale, who he'd previously dismissed as a brutish bandit. However, overhearing his conversation with Sighing, Kin Man finds himself moved by Chengdale's dreams and ambitions, pledging to risk his life to help achieve them. This incident surprisingly fulfills a hidden mission for Kin Man. Since the loss of his wife, he had felt alienated, but his interaction with Chengdale garnered his full trust. Chengdale realizes that his treatment of Sighing mirrors the actions of the Black Rock City's lord, who drove Kin Man's wife to her death. Had he mishandled Sighing, Kin Man would have been his first adversary. Chengdale is now grateful for his decision to treat Sighing with respect. The remainder of the night passes without incident, and a new day dawns over Toad Village. Su Linger rushes to inform Chengdale of an imminent attack on the village. Startled by the news, Chengdale wonders how the enemy forces arrived so quickly and asks Su Linger about the size of the attacking force. Breathless, the young girl informs him that a solitary spear-wielding warrior is their only adversary. Just outside the village gates, a lone armed man cries out, challenging the bandits to face him. This fervent individual is Warrior Lin, eager to redeem his previous defeat and rescue the kidnapped damsel. Chengdale is puzzled at the city lord's audacious move to confront them single-handedly, unsure what he expects to accomplish. He instructs Hunter Kin Man to deal with him. The arrogant warrior demands Kin Man to arm himself for battle, but Kin Man dismisses the need. With a powerful leap, he charges towards the warrior's horse, launching a strike at the horse's head and the warrior's face before a counterattack can be mounted. Lifting Warrior Lin effortlessly, Kin Man gives him a stark realization of his own powerlessness. With brute strength, Kin Man nearly crushes his adversary's face before tossing him aside. The impact sends Warrior Lin crashing into a tree and tumbling down the mountain. Expecting further altercations, Chengdale instructs Kin Man to cease any further harassment and allow Warrior Lin to retrieve his horse should he return. Kin Man assents. Suddenly, something unexpected yet fortunate occurs. The system notifies Chengdale that he has successfully defended his village from enemy assault, and his rewards are forthcoming. It's odd considering the city lord's army has yet to attack, and they only dealt with a single warrior who ventured alone. How could a mission of such magnitude be completed so effortlessly? Chengdale ponders if this could be a system glitch, but regardless, the system spirit proceeds to announce his rewards for protecting his village. He's awarded a high-grade metal spear, all the mountain horses are enhanced, a water well has appeared in the village. The village now possesses a healing property allowing residents to gradually regain their health within its boundaries. A random skill has been upgraded for an individual, and 10 farming lands have been added to the village. The bounty is overwhelming, items meant to be earned after defeating the city lord's army handed out so freely. Is this a dream? Chengdale wonders, like striking gold after squashing an ant. With legs trembling from exhilaration, he queries the system's spirit about this anomaly. The spirit simply responds that she serves as the system's manager, offering no further explanation. Upon completion of the village defense mission once again, the system's spirit announces the rewards. Predictably, they aren't as plentiful as the first time, but they're still quite substantial given the minimal effort. Consequently, the village defense mission is set for the third round. The tireless warrior is yet again making his way up the mountain to challenge the bandits. Bereft of his weapon and horse, he uses a wooden stick for support. As he reaches the village, Chengdale again inquires about his well-being. As before, the fervent warrior dismisses the concern of a bandit. He declares that he will persist in his fight until Misu is released. Per usual, Chengdale urges Kin Man to go easy on him, and as usual, the warrior is defeated in a single blow. Despite being beaten every time, the warrior's stubbornness provides Chengdale with a continual stream of missions and rewards. After hours of this peculiar spectacle, Su Linger asks if they can finally return as she's growing hungry. But Chengdale anticipates Warrior Lin's imminent return. He never fails to show up. Suddenly, the system spirit announces the accomplishment of a hidden task. For demonstrating mercy and defending the village 10 times without taking a life, all male villagers will see an increase in their charisma stat. Chengdale is less than enthused by this reward. Virtue holds little value in this world. He would have preferred something more practical. Meanwhile, Warrior Lin is notably late. It's unlike him to easily forfeit. Chiangdale worries that something unfortunate might have befallen the young warrior en route to the village. Unwilling to risk losing this reliable source of missions, he leaves the others behind to check on the young man. He finds Warrior Lin on the precipice of a towering cliff, mulling over his life. His exertions have been futile. He dreamt of being a spear-wielding hero, yearned for a world free from war, yet was repeatedly shamed by mere bandits. This harsh reality made him realize his naivety. Today, he contemplates suicide, hoping for rebirth as a stronger man who would etch his name in the annals of the world. His morbid thoughts, however, are abruptly interrupted by Chiangdale. He cannot afford to lose his golden goose so easily. Warrior Lin glares at him with disdain, asking if he's come to ridicule him further. He may lack the skill of these bandits, but he would rather perish than endure perpetual humiliation. Chiangdale, of course, isn't there to deride him but instead to impart a lesson. He advises the warrior that while young people often yearn to die for their ambitions and dreams, true men persevere, humbly dedicating their lives to their ideals. Warrior Lin may believe that his willingness to die for his aspirations is a mark of courage, but Chiangdale disagrees. To him, it's not bravery but a refusal to acknowledge his own inadequacies and a flight from reality. He encourages the warrior to look at himself in the mirror and question whether he can still consider himself a man after displaying such despair. Coming from a bandit, these words sound absurd to Warrior Lin. How could such a person comprehend his inner turmoil? But Chiangdale reassures him, reminding him that although he's a bandit now, he was once a man with dreams and ideals. Echoing the words he once shared with Ms. Su Ying, he speaks of his dream of becoming a scholar, of learning to fight like a warrior, of wanting to travel the world and sail the oceans. But his path crossed with those of self-centered people who viewed everyone beneath them as worthless. He shares with the warrior his desire to alter the world, envisioning a place of peace for all. Then, extending his hand to the warrior, he asks if he'd be willing to help him fulfill this dream. To an outsider, Chiangdale may come off as a cliché, using the same lines repeatedly. However, the earnest Warrior Lin, unaware that these words were previously uttered to Lady Su Ying, is merely amazed that a bandit could voice such noble thoughts. As his consciousness begins to fade, the young warrior contemplates how a man of such pure ideals could be forsaken. He questions his initial judgment, having assumed that Chiangdale was a villain. Perhaps he was mistaken. Lost in these thoughts, he loses consciousness entirely and begins to fall off the cliff, but Chiangdale swiftly grabs him. He cannot stand by and watch a man of such integrity die. Looking at the warrior's battered body, he feels sympathy. Despite his wounds, the warrior kept returning to challenge them all for Miss Su. Consequently, he carries him back to the village for medical attention. After tending to the warrior's wounds, Chiangdale asks the strategist about the village's medical supplies. The strategist explains that everything was taken by those who abandoned the village. More critically, he expresses his worry that the saved warrior could be a spy for Black Rock City. Hearing this, Chiangdale becomes utterly convinced that such a thing would never happen. Ignoring the strategist's concerns, he asks Zhu Linger to fetch his shovel and hoe. Being the reliable helper she is, the spirited young girl quickly brings the requested tools. Zhu Shenjai, puzzled, wonders what their village master intends to do with these items. Chiangdale reveals that they're going on a treasure hunt. After all, rewards from the system don't just fall from the sky. The rewards from the system are always strategically hidden around the host in various concealed spots. Now is the ideal time to search for them. Of course, the strategist has no clue about this. His only request is that the village master refrains from devastating the land with the tools in his possession. It's not long before they start discovering the rewards one after the other. They stumble upon blood pills, which aid in health recovery, and Chiangdale instructs the strategist to administer these to Warrior Lin later. Upon inspecting the horses, they confirm that they've been upgraded. The yellow horse is now faster when fleeing, and the black horse is swifter when charging at the enemy. Chiangdale gives the black horse to Hunter Kinman. Among the grass, Zhu Linger unearths a metal spear, and Hunter Kinman discovers a war drum nestled in the rocks. They even locate a flag tucked away beneath a table. Strikingly, the well that had been dry for years begins to produce water again. To Zhu Linger, all of this appears like the work of a benevolent spirit. Chiangdale also entrusts the metal spear to Hunter Kinman, a tool that will significantly enhance his spear combat skills. After a brief review of the reward list, Chiangdale realizes he hasn't received a sword this time. His dream of embodying the dashing swordsman remains unrealized. He also hasn't yet found the 50 wooden boxes listed as rewards. But that's when Zhu Xiangjai stumbles upon a hidden trapdoor beneath a stack of hay. They proceed to investigate its contents together, unearthing the stash of 50 wooden boxes. At this point, Zhu Xiangjai wonders if the previous village master left some sort of legacy for Chiangdale. How could an abandoned village harbor so many hidden treasures? He inquires if these wooden boxes might contain the previous village master's savings. Uncertain, Chiangdale proposes that the only way to find out is to crack them open and reveal their contents. Hoping for some extraordinary treasure, Chiangdale is excited to open the boxes. However, his luck falls short. His reward is merely a heap of stones, literal rubbish. Another letdown. He had been harboring high expectations for this reward. Zhu Zhangjai requests to open a box himself, to which Chiandale scoffs, certain that the strategist's luck is far worse. When Zhu Zhangjai unveils the contents of the box, they turn out to be unique, a black powder of some sort. Upon closer examination, Chiandale recognizes it as gunpowder, an element not expected to exist in their world. This could be their secret weapon in the fight against Black Rock City. Eagerly, Chiandale instructs the strategist to rapidly open all the boxes to check for more gunpowder. As it turns out, they obtain 10 boxes of gunpowder, 20 boxes of stone, and a pile of damaged weapons amidst torn clothing. This is precisely what they needed. Armed with the newfound cache of gunpowder, Chiandale begins to formulate a plan to stave off the impending assault from Black Rock City. Zhu Zhangjai is unsure of the mysterious black powder's purpose, but Chiandale implores him to secure the boxes safely. They will prove crucial in the near future. The unwitting strategist wonders if the boxes might serve as firewood come winter, oblivious to the catastrophic consequences of setting them ablaze. Chiandale cautions him sternly, promising a fiery fate for Zhu Zhangjai should any of the boxes be tampered with. Chiandale then inquires about the location of the village's farmland. The strategist informs him that it lies behind the hill, untouched and forgotten for years. Eager to inspect it, Chiandale rallies the villagers for a visit to the forsaken land. On their journey, Zhu Zhangjai shares how he had sown wheat seeds in the spring fields, though he harbors little hope for their growth due to the field's neglect. Much to their collective astonishment, the land is lush with the most bountiful wheat harvest they've ever witnessed, a true miracle. Overcome with gratitude, Zhu Zhangjai offers thanks to the heavens. The system spirit announces the successful accounting of all 10 farmlands. As Zulinger frolics in the fields, Kinman contemplates how the extensive wheat yield will ensure their survival through the impending winter. Moreover, the wheat straw can be utilized as fuel to combat the chilling weather. The group agrees to swiftly harvest the crops before the rains arrive. Witnessing this miraculous turn of events, everyone drops to their knees, expressing heartfelt thanks to the benevolent deity they believe has bestowed these blessings. Observing their genuine gratitude, Chiandale understands that not all bandits are inherently evil. Their circumstances, products of a war-torn era, forced even these 3 people before him into banditry. Zhu Zhangjai was once a scholar residing in a village at the foot of the mountain. He had a weakness for wine and, regrettably, a prurient interest in women. Unfortunately, evil is omnipresent. Village bullies began to prey on Zulinger, occasionally attempting to abduct her. Knowing he couldn't physically defend against these individuals, Zhu Zhangjai contrived a cunning plan. He deceitfully proposed to wed Zulinger off to the bullies' leader, adorning his daughter and welcoming the bandits into his home. After serving them wine laced with poison, he waited for them to succumb to unconsciousness, subsequently slaying them all and setting the cottage ablaze. Together, father and daughter made a desperate escape, and through a series of fortuitous events, they ended up in Toad Village. This episode might be the singular success of Zhu Zhangjai's scheming, yet Chiandale can't help but respect his audacity. The elderly Zhu Zhangjai had gone to great lengths to ensure the safety of his only daughter, a deed that was nothing short of heroic. After inspecting the farmland, they all returned to the village. Chiandale uses this opportunity to study the recently discovered flag. To him, the emblem appears to be a toad crowned by an egg-like object. However, Zhu Zhangjai elucidates that it's a toad under a full moon, an allegory for a celestial toad that's set to consume the moon. Chiandale doesn't pay much heed to the flag's profound symbolism but appreciates its presence nonetheless. He requests Kinman to hoist the flag at the village entrance. The agile hunter ascends the flagpole with a few expert leaps, and once the flag is aloft, he descends to admire the sight along with the rest. Under a full moon, the flag billows majestically, imbuing everyone with a sense of purpose and liberation. They recognize this village as their sanctuary, a haven they're duty-bound to defend. Chiandale, originating from a different realm, regards this as a territory under his protection, which he dreams will someday evolve into a legendary mountain village. This is merely the beginning. With the night bathed in the full moon's glow, the system spirit emerges, notifying Chiandale that with the flag raised, heroes from distant lands will learn of his deeds and pledge their allegiance to him. A new mission is thus unveiled: rally a population of 100. In return for this feat, he'll be granted another chance at the lottery. His previous success yielded the reliable Kinman as a subordinate. Who could the lottery bestow upon him next? Only time will reveal this. Presently, his priority is devising a strategy to counteract Black Rock City. In the opulent City Lord's mansion of Black Rock City, the leader of the convoy raided by Chiandale is prostrate before his lord, recounting the incidents that unfolded at Kinu Mountain. He relates how a formidable battalion of 300 bandits, led by the formidable Zhu Zhangjai, who proclaimed himself the Toad King, ambushed them during their journey escorting Miss Su to Black Rock City. During their clash with the bandits, Zhu Zhangjai stormed forth, decimating their ranks. An elder residing in the City Lord's Hall voices his skepticism at these numbers, questioning the perennial presence of such a multitude of bandits at Toad Ridge. Cornered, the escort leader finds no alternative but to embellish his narrative further to spare his life. Tearfully, he asserts the existence of not just 200 bandits but an additional cohort of ruffians hailing from Yanchun State. He prostrates himself before the city lord, seeking atonement for his failures. Hoping for mercy, his pleas are met with the city lord's harsh decree to execute him. The hapless man's desperate cries for mercy echo as he's hauled away. In the midst of this, the city lord's son and Su Ying's betrothed steps into the hall. He requests his father provide him with an armed contingent to rescue Miss Su from the bandits' clutches. However, to the city lord, this task appears excessively inconvenient. He assures his son that Su Ying is replaceable and promises to arrange a new bride for him soon. But his son has a different perspective, stating he'd be unworthy of his manhood if he failed to safeguard his future wife. Seeing his son's determination, the indulgent father yields to his request, asking how many soldiers he will need. The son's preposterously high estimate leaves the city lord spewing his tea in surprise. Even the hall elder grows significantly anxious, urging the young master to reassess his requested number. Dispatching an army of 2,000 to quell mere bandits seems ludicrous. But the young man is resolute, his mind filled with tales of heroic war exploits, believing an overwhelming show of force is the sole route to victory. As his attendant refills his tea, the city lord clarifies that he cannot provide 2,000 soldiers, as their city only boasts a total force of 5,000. He consents to lend a maximum of 1,000 soldiers. His son agrees, requesting a composition of 200 cavalrymen, 200 archers, 300 swordsmen, 100 armored knights, and 200 spearmen. In his eyes, with such a force, dealing with 300 bandits would be a breeze. Indulging his son's long-standing dream of leading an army, the city lord approves his request. He also offers the escort leader another opportunity to redeem himself by guiding the young master to the bandits. The leader outwardly expresses gratitude, but internally he is filled with dread. They had initially been ambushed by only 2 individuals. If a 1,000-strong army were to march a considerable distance to face a mere pair of bandits, he could well lose his head for it. After their departure, the city lord queries the elder's opinion on his son's strategy. Revealed to be the strategist of Black Rock City, responsible for managing many of its internal operations, he lays bare to the city lord the glaring inadequacies in the young master's plan. The dense forest in the mountains would impede the cavalry, and the armored knights would struggle to cover such a vast distance promptly. The city lord acknowledges this, having merely acquiesced to his son's whims of leading an army. When the strategist inquires if the city lord intends to guide the young master in commanding his troops, the city lord casually dismisses the thought. He merely wishes to revel in the company of young women, suggesting that if the strategist could experience such pleasures himself, he would realize there's nothing else worth contemplating. The strategist finds himself questioning the wisdom of serving such a capricious master, given his startling disregard for serious matters. In the face of impending doom, Chengdale and Sighing are in the midst of strategizing back at the Toad Village. Sighing informs him that Black Rock City doesn't have a standing army, which utterly astounds Chengdale. How could a city support 5,000 soldiers with only a 20,000 population? And without a standing army, how would they repel any potential attacks? Sighing explains that the city can always enlist soldiers from their military households, and in the event of a large-scale assault, even the ordinary citizens would be willing to take up arms. She further explains that Behenchuan, the city's head strategist, had once proposed training at least 500 permanent soldiers. However, due to the significant resources required, the city lord had abandoned the idea. When Chengdale inquires about Behenchuan, Sighing describes him as an exceptionally skilled individual responsible for managing both the internal and external affairs of Black Rock City. Given the city lord's disregard for the advice of such a capable strategist, Chengdale concludes that he's indeed an inept leader. Though Sighing has no particular affection for the city lord, she challenges Chengdale's assertion. If the city lord is inadequate, could Chengdale handle the city more competently? Chengdale responds quickly, stating that he lacks the experience of managing a city and has never been a city lord. However, he can recognize incompetence when he sees it. After hearing this, Sighing suggests the only viable option they have is to retreat. They only have 4 people in the village, and if they act promptly, they might escape unscathed. But Chengdale corrects her, mentioning that Warrior Lin has decided to join them, making them a total of 5. Exiting the room to check on Warrior Lin, Chengdale greets him and inquires about his recovery. Warrior Lin, who has now become significantly more respectful towards Chengdale, refers to him as the village master. Chengdale, in turn, is the leader who will guide him towards realizing his ideals. They clasp their hands together in a pledge to strive for a better future. With a cache of gunpowder in the basement and the support of a fervent new recruit, Chengdale feels ready to confront the city lord's forces. He turns his attention to entrusting his strategist with an important mission. The strategist, fully aware of his own limitations, recommends that Chengdale look for a more dependable individual for such a crucial task. But Chengdale firmly believes that only the strategist can carry out this mission. He wants him to visit all the neighboring bandit villages. Considering the unpredictable behavior of these unruly bandits, the strategist, Zhu Shenjai, isn't eager to risk his life just yet. Chengdale proceeds to elaborate on his plan. Numerous mountain bandit villages are scattered across the Kinnayu mountain range. His idea is to have the elderly strategist bring these bandits fine wine and spread word that Black Rock City is planning an attack on all their settlements. Zhu Shenjai harbors doubts, unsure if the bandits would trust his word. However, Chengdale is confident in the strategist's silver tongue, believing that he could spin a convincing tale that the unschooled bandits would surely buy into. Despite this, the strategist remains hesitant. The former leader of the Toad village had crossed paths with these bandits, and their reception might not be cordial. To assuage his fears, Chengdale proposes that Warrior Lin accompanies him on the mission, assuring him that even if he perishes, his daughter would be taken care of. While this promise does little to quell his fears, the strategist is left with no other choice. Chengdale threatens to plaster the erotic sketches, the strategist's secret hobby, all over Black Rock City, a secret so well kept that even his own daughter is oblivious to it. Therefore, begrudgingly, the strategist climbs into a cart filled with wine alongside Warrior Lin, ready to meet whatever fate has in store. His erotic drawings and his pride take precedence over his own life. As they depart, Hunter Kin Man voices the same concerns the strategist had. Would the bandits trust them? But Chengdale appears unfazed. Even if the bandits don't believe their tale, the endeavor is worth attempting. Subsequently, Chengdale assembles a makeshift bomb by filling a box with gunpowder, gravel, and straws, and employing an oil-soaked cotton line as a fuse. Once the box is sealed, he positions himself at the edge of a cliff and waves a flag, signaling Hunter Kin Man to hurl the box into the valley below. Just as Chengdale expected, the concoction triggers a massive explosion. The destruction is so severe that Hunter Kin Man can't help but wonder if Chengdale somehow harnessed the power of a legendary dragon. But Chengdale clarifies that this is no dragon's breath, but the art of explosion. Armed with this new weapon, he is ready to confront his adversaries. Back in Black Rock City, a 1,000-strong army has been assembled and now stands ready, awaiting the orders of their commander. The city lord Sun ascends the podium, gazes at the clear skies above, and comments that it's an auspicious sign for the forthcoming battle. Although he appears elated, his soldiers have been standing under the scorching sun for hours. If subjected to his uninspiring speech for much longer, they'll start keeling over from exhaustion. The young commander surveys his army one more time. He unsheathes his sword and points it at a random soldier, asking if he feels honored. The soldier is perplexed by this abrupt and strange gesture. The commander explains that, according to ancient tradition, renowned generals would often select an individual for sacrifice before embarking on a campaign, and he should consider himself lucky to have been chosen. The jest seems to escalate too quickly. The soldier implores the young city lord to stop toying with him. Unbeknownst to him, the lad harbors an absurdly delusional mindset, and without hesitation, he slashes the poor man down, asserting that he should feel privileged to perish in his master's glory. With his dying breaths, the fallen soldier curses his ruthless killer. This madcap of a young lord observes the blood on his blade with a solemn demeanor, feigning coolness, and commands his troops to commence their battle march. From the outset, this campaign is set to be a catastrophe. There isn't a single soldier among the ranks who doesn't harbor thoughts of throttling the young lord. But orders are orders, and the army starts its march along the winding trails of the Kinnayu mountain. As anticipated, the oblivious young lord is lounging comfortably in a spacious carriage at the rear. The unit commander, troubled, questions why the lord isn't spearheading the charge alongside the cavalry, leading his troops. The young lord justifies that he is not a mere soldier, he's a brilliant general whose forte lies in strategizing and commanding from the rear. Taking point won't allow him to fully utilize his tactical brilliance. The unit commander, Huang, nervously concurs, as there's little else he can do. But the young lord goads him further, stating that Huang can't comprehend his genius. He admires those generals who command from their camps, letting their troops secure victories for them. The boy is nothing short of a complete fool. Back at Black Rock City, the advisor is deeply concerned about the reckless decision to permit the young lord to take such a significant portion of their troops. He seeks an audience with the city lord to voice his worries. Predictably, the city lord is engrossed in his usual hedonistic pursuits with his charming attendants. His priorities are narrowed down to liquor and women. That's the sum total of his concern. Both the father and son seem beyond redemption. The advisor confides his unease to the city lord, mentioning that the young lord and his forces have been absent for an entire day without any reports. He proposes to gather 100 soldiers and investigate the situation. The city lord is indifferent, telling the advisor to do as he pleases. As he leaves, the city lord advises him not to disturb his leisure time again. Granted permission, the advisor quickly rounds up 100 swift horsemen and leads them towards the Kinnayu mountain. Let's rewind a bit to the previous night. The young lord's forces are ceaselessly marching towards the Toad village. The troops have been on the move for a full day when Unit Commander Huang suggests to the young lord that the men should rest before reaching their destination. His proposition is dismissed outright. The young lord naively insists that swift action is paramount, fearing that if they rest, they might be ambushed by bandits. They ought to keep marching instead. Commander Huang understands the futility of arguing with this obstinate youngster, yet he pleads once again for the young lord to permit the soldiers to rest before exhaustion takes its toll. They won't be fit for battle otherwise. Again, the boy exhibits a complete lack of regard for his troops. He argues that his soldiers ought to be resilient and courageous. Casualties are a given in war, and such minor fatigue pales in comparison to the specter of death. At this point, all Commander Huang can do is grit his teeth in frustration. Then, a scout gallops up to him, reporting that 3 routes lie ahead: the main thoroughfare, the mountain road, and a narrow path through the valley. He asks which path they should take. Commander Huang replies without hesitation that for an army of their size, the main imperial road is the sole viable option. The other narrower routes wouldn't accommodate a battle. However, the young city lord hastily interjects, contending that if even their commander deems the main road the obvious choice, then the bandits would certainly anticipate the same. He surmises that traps must be laid along the official road and, therefore, plans to outwit them by selecting an alternative path. Commander Huang can only grimace in resignation. Meanwhile, a vigilant bandit successfully scouts the army from a distance, confirming the Toad Village warning that a vast army from Black Rock City is marching to eradicate them all. Swiftly, the scout retreats to alert the various bandit strongholds. The news spreads throughout the mountain, with every bandit faction informed of the impending invasion. Among them is the Flying Tiger Village. A messenger dashes into the village leader's hall to report the substantial military presence within the mountain, albeit not advancing via the main road. The village leader's younger brother surmises that the soldiers aren't marching towards their village and are perhaps targeting only the Toad Village. However, the leader is skeptical. Why would such a vast force attack a meager Toad Village, which barely has 4 or 5 inhabitants? This is Gao Feihu, the leader of the Flying Tiger Village. In the absence of his military advisor, he instructs his men to remain vigilant and continue observing the situation. As dawn breaks, the army finds itself in the narrow valley. Cheng Dali had anticipated them choosing this path and was fully prepared for their arrival. What took him by surprise, however, was the sheer number of soldiers present. At a glance, there seemed to be at least 1,000. Zachenjia, suddenly apprehensive, urges his village master to abandon their plan and flee. But retreat is no longer an option. Their only choice is to ready themselves for the impending battle to the best of their abilities. Cheng Dali commands his men to prepare for the confrontation. Upon Cheng Dali's command, Warrior Lin will ignite the explosives they had previously positioned at the entrance of the valley. Simultaneously, Hunter Kin Man and strategist Su, accompanied by his daughter, will begin hurling the remaining explosives at the enemy below. The strategist inquires why they're only barricading the front of the valley. Why not block both ends to entrap the enemy? This moment serves as a lesson in the true craft of war. Cheng Dali explains that individuals demonstrate exceptional strength when cornered. Only when an escape route is visible does the will to fight till death diminish. He further emphasizes that unlike their foes, the Toad Village has no way out. As the cavalry leads the troops, Zhu Shenjia frets they might soon vacate the blast radius. Cheng Dali requests a bit more patience. As soon as a portion of the cavalry clears the explosive range, he signals his men to unleash the logs and detonate the explosives. He initiates the surprise attack, cutting the ropes tethering the massive logs. These logs tumble down the steep cliffs, toppling soldiers from their horses and crushing many beneath. Cheng Dali instructs Lin Xiu to promptly light the fuse to the explosives. But witnessing the devastation, Lin begins to question his actions. Cheng Dali asks if this is his first attempt at taking a life, causing Lin to break out in cold sweat. Such hesitation can lead to substantial losses in battle, so Cheng Dali sharply brings him back to reality. He stresses that they're in the midst of war, not a playground. War is neither noble nor civil. It's a fight for survival. They either kill or get killed. Hearing these words, Lin Xiu regains his resolve. Cheng Dali takes up the torch and ignites the explosives himself. Should they let the enemy pass, the entire Toad Village would face annihilation. Chaos erupts in the valley thereafter. Explosions scatter throughout, massive boulders dislodge from the cliffs and descend upon the unsuspecting Black Rock City soldiers. A few cavalry units narrowly escape the valley before their exit is blocked, leaving the rest stranded with no path forward. Powerful explosions continue to blast soldiers off their feet, leaving the survivors to wonder if they've invoked the wrath of a formidable specter. After all, in this world, the existence of gunpowder is unknown. With no possibility of retreating and reuniting with their forces, the cavalry can only charge uphill to gain a better understanding of the situation. Observing the enemy's approach, Kin Man informs Cheng Dali of his intention to intercept the enemy before they can reach them. Concurrently, Cheng Dali orders Zhu Linger and Lin Xiu to continue lobbing more explosive boxes into the valley. The cavalry mounts a charge uphill towards Kin Man, who stands ready to hold them off single-handedly. As long as this formidable hunter stands his ground, no one can get past. He begins decimating his adversaries one by one. Despite the soldiers being armed and trained, they prove no match for the mighty hunter. Moreover, due to their commander's refusal to grant them rest, each soldier is at the point of utter exhaustion. They can hardly put up a fight. The scene truly resembles hell. Without a competent leader, the army's morale plummets amid the confusion and chaos. Blocked by enormous boulders, they can't even advance to safety. The soldiers have no alternative but to retreat. Racing back to their young lord, they report a monstrous entity attacking them. Despite observing the panic and exhaustion of his soldiers, the delusional boy remains indifferent. He orders them back into the fray, threatening execution for deserters. He believes his bravado and commanding presence will turn the tide of the battle. However, the soldiers have reached their limits. They're trapped in a valley under bombardment by fiery explosions and boulders. How can they combat an unseen enemy? They openly defy the young lord's commands, charging past him and wrecking his carriage in their retreat. The following soldiers are launched past the carriage by a nearby detonation. Commander Huang advises the young lord that this is no time for obstinacy. They've lost their momentum, and if they don't flee now, the bandits will overtake and slaughter them. Observing the desperate retreat around him, the young lord at last seems to grasp the reality. He concedes defeat but insists that the experience will be invaluable in his growth as a future general. Amid the chaos, he raises his sword high, informing Commander Huang that he should feel privileged to witness his post-battle growth and be grateful to serve such an extraordinary master. This is the last straw for Commander Huang. Unable to tolerate this ludicrous charade any longer, he pushes the young lord in a fit of anger, telling him to take his honor and glory and stuff it. He then turns and makes a dash for safety himself. When one person loses resolve and flees, others tend to follow, causing a ripple effect throughout the remaining ranks. Witnessing the full force of this self-preservation phenomenon from atop the towering cliffs, Cheng Dali watches as fear propels every last person to escape. Zhu Shenjie arrives to announce their victory. Immediately, Cheng Dali directs warrior Lin and the strategists to join him on the battlefield. As they climb into the horse cart, he instructs Linger to sound the war drums. With her petite but sturdy frame, Zhu Linger beats the massive war drum, signaling victory for the Toad village. Today, they would have the spoils of war, gathering as many resources and weapons from the battlefield as they could carry. As the trio approach the valley's mouth, they encounter the cavalry, still engaged in combat with kin men. Cheng Dali yells for them to abandon their mounts if they wish to save their lives. Having already experienced the formidable strength of Hunter kin man, retreat is their sole option. Those who dismounted in time were spared, and the group managed to acquire numerous high-quality horses. Cheng Dali requests the strategist and Hunter kin man to lead these horses back to their stables, while he and warrior Lin Shi venture further into the battlefield to salvage swords and other weapons. From a distance, the Flying Tiger village observes the surreal spectacle unfold. The Toad village had managed to overpower a 1,000-strong army without a single loss. They ponder whether some powerful martial expert had come to the Toad village's aid. The world is indeed full of surprises. Even an army of 1,000 can fall to a mere handful of individuals. Yet, the bandits see an opportunity. The battle's conclusion marks the time for looting and plundering. They rush onto the field to claim their share of the spoils. Bandits eliminate any soldiers who failed to escape, relieving them of their footwear. They clearly need the military boots. One bandit even demands a soldier to relinquish his trousers. Misunderstanding the request, the soldier pleads to keep his chastity, assuring the bandit he is not interested in men. The bandit clarifies he is only after his trousers, not his virtue. At the valley's far end, Cheng Dali gives chase to the young lord, coveting his sword. His desire to be a swordsman still holds. But just as he nears his target, the sound of numerous galloping horses reaches him. It's the advisor of Black Rock City, accompanied by 100 horsemen. Unaware of the incoming party's identity, Cheng Dali deduces from the synchronized hoofbeats that they must be an elite troop. As they draw near to the valley, the advisor instructs his men to swap their spears for swords, ready to engage in close-quarters combat if necessary. From the distinct aura radiating from the newcomer, Cheng Dali deduces that this individual possesses considerable skill and strength. Could he be reinforcements? If so, why would they arrive so late? As he ponders their motives, the young lord rushes toward the military advisor, complaining about being mistreated. What an entitled child. Regrettably for him, the elder man harbors no intention of saving his life. Rather, he is keen to eliminate the imbecile responsible for squandering a quarter of Black Rock City's forces. The young lord ultimately meets his fate, his life snuffed out with a single, expertly delivered slash across his chest from the advisor. After verifying the army's defeat himself, the advisor orders his men to gather the fallen and return. Now his identity comes into light. He is Behen Xuan, a 52-year-old highly skilled strategist of modest fame. He masters the 7 sword/martial arts and has no concealed talents. Cheng Dali understands the danger a shrewd strategist can pose. While Hunter Kinman may single-handedly combat 100 foes, a capable mind can wreak even more havoc. The old man's senses are remarkably sharp, forcing Cheng Dali to retreat into the bushes when he begins to survey his surroundings. Choosing not to investigate further, the advisor departs with his men. Surprisingly, they retreat without further intervention. This quick withdrawal demonstrates the advisor's ability to swiftly assess and respond to the situation, realizing the futility of their position. It's clear that strategists of the likes of Zhu Shenjie still exist in this era. Yet, Cheng Dali feels a sting of disappointment for not acquiring the young lord's exquisite sword. He muses that destiny must have tethered him to his ex. Just then, the system announces the successful completion of the 11th village defense, rewarding him with one lottery draw. The system's spirit finally appears, having been sent to a subspace confinement room for allowing Chang Dali to exploit a bug previously. She laments her solitary confinement and inability to escape, though Chang Dali remains indifferent to her distress. After all, she only ever reprimands him when she emerges. He finds her absence more peaceful, earning himself several scolding blows to the head. She blames him for her imprisonment. Chang Dali playfully inquires whether he can exploit the system's bugs in the future, which infuriates her. Despite having suffered due to his actions, he still wants to take advantage of her. She brandishes her large mallet and chases after her foolish host as he flees. One can't help but feel he'll receive a whack on the head eventually. But what if the war spoils? Who will claim the remnants of battle?